Today on RoxomTV News, Paramount is buying half of Hollywood for $111 billion because apparently the best way to fix streaming is to own all the streaming. Gary Cardone joins the show to break down where Bitcoin actually stands in 2026, beyond the hype, beyond the headlines, and beyond whatever the Fed thinks it's doing. And Hillary Clinton testifies for 6 hours on Epstein with Bill Clinton. He's preparing to testify himself. All that and more right now on today's show. Let's get into it.
I don't know how many times I had to say I did not know Jeffrey Epstein. I never went to his island. I never went to his homes. I never went to his offices. So it's on the record numerous times.
All right, welcome to RoxomTV News. It is Friday, and I'm your host, Hank Hudson, and our first story this morning involves Hillary Clinton, who spent more than 6 hours behind closed doors this week testifying before the House Oversight Committee about Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, telling lawmakers she had no knowledge of their crimes and does not recall ever actually meeting Epstein. Committee Chairman James Comer said afterward that lawmakers learned a lot, though he also noted the committee was not satisfied with some of her responses, particularly when questions turned toward her husband, and she replied, "I don't know. You'll have to ask my husband." Bill Clinton now takes the hot seat, becoming the first former president in more than 4 decades to testify under subpoena before a congressional panel. Now, neither Clinton has been accused of wrongdoing as of right now, but the documented connection between Bill Clinton and Epstein is very real. Visitor logs show Epstein visited the White House during the 1990s, and after Clinton left office, he traveled on Epstein's private plane. Photographs released under the Epstein Files Transparency Act show Clinton with Epstein and Maxwell, including images with women whose identities were redacted by the DOJ, which treated them as victims. Ghislaine Maxwell has claimed she arranged flights for Clinton and described herself as his friend, not Epstein's. Meanwhile, Democrats have called for Donald Trump to testify as well, arguing that his name appears frequently in the same files, though he also has not been accused of wrongdoing in connection to Epstein. And for those of you watching at home, this matters because the Epstein investigation continues to straddle 2 realities at once: a legitimate inquiry into how convicted sex offenders a convicted sex offender maintained access to elite power circles for years, and a partisan battlefield where each side points to the other. The core question is bigger than any one politician. How did the system enable Epstein for so long, and who looked the other way? That answer, if pursued seriously, will not be partisan. Moving on to our next story. From Hollywood's executive suites to Washington's political corridors, the largest media merger ever attempted is now officially moving forward, and Netflix has decided it would rather keep its balance sheet intact than escalate the bidding war. Paramount Skydance, led by David Ellison, is set to acquire Warner Brothers Discovery in a deal valued at roughly $111 billion after the WBD board declared Paramount's $31 per share offer superior, and Netflix publicly stated that matching the price no longer made financial sense. Investors responded quickly, sending Netflix shares sharply higher in after-hours trading, while Warner Brothers Discovery dipped slightly and Paramount gained, which suggests that Wall Street believes Netflix may have avoided an expensive integration challenge in an already brutal streaming environment. Now, this deal, however, unfolded in a political climate that adds another layer of scrutiny. David Ellison acquired Paramount last year in a transaction that closed shortly after the company agreed to pay Donald Trump $16 million to settle a lawsuit involving CBS's News' editing of a 60 Minutes interview. And since then, Ellison has reshaped CBS's News leadership while maintaining visible ties to Republican lawmakers. His father, Oracle co-founder Larry Ellison, is financing much of this acquisition and is also a known Trump donor. Democratic senators, including Elizabeth Warren, have raised concerns about antitrust implications and the appearance of political influence. Senator Cory Booker has invited Ellison to testify, and California Attorney General Rob Bonta has made clear federal approval would not necessarily end state review. Now, if completed, the merged company would control CBS, CNN, HBO, Warner Brothers, DC, Paramount Plus, and one of the largest entertainment libraries in history. And for those of you watching at home, this matters because consolidation shapes what content survives, what streaming prices look like, and who ultimately controls major newsrooms. And the economics of scale and streaming are very real. the political optics are also real, and regulators now have to decide whether those two forces can coexist. All right, joining me this morning to talk about this story and others, one of our good friends of the program, the one and only Fernando, the Bitcoin Libertarian. Fernando, happy Friday. How are you? Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me today. Happy Saturday from Hong Kong, and very excited to be here again.
Yeah, we're excited to have you, Fernando, and we've got a lot to talk about this morning. So let's get right into it with this first story. So we've seen a lot go on in this. Now it's almost a saga. It's been going on for a couple of months. It looked like Netflix was a slam dunk deal. Now it looks like Paramount's got the upper hand, and it appears that that is the way this is going to go. So my question for you, Fernando, is when one company ends up owning CBS, CNN, HBO, and Warner Brothers, does that feel like normal business growth to you, or does it feel like too much power in the hands of too few? What do you make of this?
Well, I think that we have discussed this a few months ago, and
Yep.
and to be honest, it is what it is. I'm not like I'm not too into this news. And anyways, it is what it is. And now we have the point is that, of course, it's not good that all the content is controlled by only one platform. I'm a little bit pissed with Paramount because they bought the rights of UFC, and I cannot watch here in Hong Kong at home anymore. That's a problem when someone controls everything. But on the other side, we cannot. I think that again we discuss about that. The content is really democratized now with all the platforms that we have. And again, we cannot stop these companies doing what they are doing.
Right. Well, I've got some good news for you to start, Fernando. I've heard there's a little website called Stream East, and you can watch all your UFC fights there for free, but you didn't hear it from me. I heard it from the interwebs. And, I guess another question I have for you is, we're in this new era of AI, and we're seeing AI create all sorts of incredible things, and it's only going to get better. So my question for you, Fernando, is do you think that this was a smart move ultimately by Paramount? Warner Brothers does own a lot of different IP, and in this emerging world of AI, it seems like the more good IP you can get, the more programs and shows you can just churn out utilizing AI in the future. So do you think this was a smart move for them, ultimately, acquiring Warner Brothers?
Yes, again, I'm not too into the news, but again, what you are telling is a really interesting move because we have seen in the past weeks a lot of creations with AI, incredible like trailers of new. I saw a couple of trailers of content generated with AI that looks like incredible. So again, if they have the IPs, I think that something that happened, I'm a little bit old, when Pixar start doing the content of animated stuff, and for us was incredible. I think that now it's coming a lot of, probably in the future, we are gonna see full movies generated with AI. So I think it's a good move if you can control the IP that produce this content, because content is going to be produced in the future no matter what. But I think most of the content will be produced by AI, and it's a smart move if Warner has the IP. So I think that it's a smart move.
And we're in this really interesting era here when it comes to the media landscape, right? So we're seeing the consolidation of the bigger legacy players like this move. However, as you mentioned previously, there's so many independent creators now that also have avenues in all arenas on YouTube, Rumble, Instagram, wherever else. So my question for you, Fernando, is do you think the consolidation of these big media conglomerates like we're seeing will actually push more people to these independent content creators? Because we're living in this world where nobody trusts any kind of legacy media anymore, especially not the news, which would seemingly open the door for smaller creators to come in and kind of fill in a lot of those cracks, especially when it comes to the authenticity aspect between them and the viewer. So like yourself and a lot of what we do here at RoxomTV. So again, do you think that seeing these bigger players all consolidate actually will open up opportunities for the smaller ones out there?
Of course it opens, because if, let's say, if something looks really monopolic and has only one view of the world, people needs to have other opinions. I think that this
Right.
is just on the creation of probably the entertainment content, not the educative or news. I think that for the news, people have switched already to independent
Yeah.
creators. They follow their own creators on Instagram, on YouTube, on Rumble. I think that legacy media is like the CNN, CBS are not anymore. People don't trust them, and
Yeah.
from this side, probably it will take more time to get entertainment content from independent creators because, for example, to produce news, you just need a camera and an internet connection. But to produce a whole movie done by AI, you need a lot of money because you need a lot of
Right.
resources, you need the IPs. But it can trigger new creators independent from these companies
Yeah.
that will find their niche on there. Yes.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think we're going to see a lot more people turn to independent creators at this time because it just feels like we're just watching one big, powerful media conglomerate tell us what's happening and what's right or wrong. But there's a lot of different opinions out there. And when these companies continually, buy one another and keep eating each other, it's like a lot of these more divisive opinions, I feel like kind of get lost in the shuffle and people are turning to the YouTubes and the Rumbles to get those opinions because the bigger these companies get, the more they kind of have to fit into this box. And as we've seen when it comes to entertainment, people want the big personalities, the divisive opinions. So I think they're more likely to find those in places like YouTube and Rumble and, right here in Roxom TV. So we're always excited to promote that. All right, we're going to move on to our next story here, Fernando, as Jack Dorsey just made one of the boldest workforce bets of the AI era. You see Block, the company behind Square, Cash App, and Afterpay, is cutting more than 4,000 employees, nearly half its workforce. And Dorsey says the reason is pretty simple. Artificial intelligence has fundamentally changed how companies operate. In a company-wide note, Dorsey wrote, "We're not making this decision because we're in trouble, but something has changed," adding that AI tools paired with smaller, flatter teams are redefining what it means to build and run a business. Wall Street, they loved the logic as Block stock jumped up to 24% in after-hours trading, adding billions in market value within hours of the announcement. Dorsey framed the decision as a choice between cutting slowly over years as AI reshapes the workplace or acting decisively now, arguing that a clean reset is less destructive than prolonged uncertainty. He insisted the company is financially healthy, pointing to steady gross profit growth and improving profitability, while also predicting that most companies are late and that many will soon reach the same conclusion. Now, that prediction matters. You see, Block nearly tripled its headcount during the pandemic hiring surge, even as its stock fell more than 75% over 5 years. And skeptics argue that these layoffs may reflect post-pandemic excess as much as AI efficiency. Still, the signal here is unmistakable. Amazon, Meta, Salesforce, and others have cited AI in recent cuts, and tools from Anthropic and OpenAI are rapidly automating tasks once reserved for white-collar professionals. And for those of you watching at home, this is bigger than just one company. A CEO just told 4,000 people they are no longer needed, told investors that profits would improve, and the market rewarded him immediately. So the question now is whether AI is truly replacing half of corporate labor or whether AI has become the most shareholder-friendly word in America. We're bringing Fernando back. Fernando, when you see Jack Dorsey, a CEO of a huge company, cut nearly half of his staff and said AI made them unnecessary. Does that feel like real technological progress to you, or does it maybe feel like corporate spin to boost the stock price? What do you think? Is this all talk, or is this the beginning of the way the world is moving? I'd love to get your thoughts.
No, I think he's very. I read his tweet, his message to the employees, and I think that is something that is happening in all the companies. AI is disrupting all the works that we do every day, and those who don't adapt fast, these companies are gonna die. So
Yeah.
I think that he made a good move. Of course, it's a pit. It's sad for the people who lose their jobs. But sometimes when you are a CEO, when you run a company, you have to make decisions that keep your company alive. And I think now that anyone, not even company, regular people that don't adapt to AI are not going to be successful in the world that is coming. I see AI as a huge opportunity because it helps you a lot to execute more tasks, to be more productive, and create more things. But on the other side, the people who don't adapt is gonna be having hard times, and it's not gonna happen this with blog. It's gonna happen everywhere. I'm reading that
Yeah.
in the next probably 18 to 24 months, half of the white collar positions are gonna be cut off because of AI.
Yeah.
That's something incredible. It's happening. So I urge people, and on the other side, I saw a graphic on Twitter that says 84% of the population of the world never used AI. Never used AI. So I always promote this on my podcast, on my channel, on my tweet. Start studying AI because it's not isolated what happened in a blog. It's going to happen
Yeah.
everywhere. And let me put something that hilarious or sarcastic. Remember when Chuck Dorsey was the CEO of Twitter? Then Elon Musk bought Twitter and he fired
Right.
probably 40% of the employees and say Twitter can run with less employees. So he used
Yeah.
to have an overpopulation in Twitter and now he needs to cut shop. So I think that this is something that is happening. I see as an opportunity. The world is changing and we cannot stop. So
Right.
either is you adapt or I'm not gonna say the word because YouTube is gonna penalize Roxom, but you understand.
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it on the head, Fernando. Whether you're a business or you're an employee, like learning to adapt with the advent of AI is absolutely crucial in staying relevant in today's, financial and work marketplace. Because I mean, it begs the question, right? Like, if AI can really replace large portions of white collar jobs, do you think the market, Fernando, will naturally adapt and create new opportunities as a result of AI? Or are we heading into this rough adjustment period for a lot of people where a lot of these entry level positions, especially, are going to be replaced with, AI agents? So my question again to you is, do you think more opportunities are going to be presented as a result of AI? Or are we in for a decent period of rough times here as we make this transition? What do you think is going to happen?
I think that it's gonna come rough times.
Yeah.
Every transition brings rough times. So it's not like I'm
Hmm.
not very optimistic in the short term. Now is a good time to adapt and to on the other side, I see that it creates opportunity for people who can use AI, who understand how to use AI.
Hmm.
Because on that side, someone needs to do consultation, teach people how to use AI. But it's going
Yeah.
to be hard times for many of the people. I think that AI and robots will bring abundance, will bring all the prices of everything down. But
Hmm.
we need to sail through the transition, and the transition are rough waters. I think that is going to be a period of pain, but at the end of the day, market will adapt everything.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not optimistic on this one. We're talking about 18 to 24 months from now, and you said like 50% of white collar jobs are going to be replaced by AI tools. Like, that's just such a huge portion of the workforce to, get displaced in a short period of time. I think we're in for a lot of doom and gloom, at least in the short term right now. And we saw the stock price for Block jump almost immediately after this news was announced. So it clearly looks like companies are going to probably be very eager to do this to appease shareholders and bump up their stock price too. So a part of me almost wonders, like, could we see maybe in the short term an overcorrection here? As they mentioned with Block, they hired like all these people during the pandemic, clearly too many. I wonder if we could see the opposite happen. Could we see companies maybe cut too many people and then realize, whoa, wait a second, maybe we overcorrected here a little bit. So I'll be curious to see how this plays out, but I'm not optimistic. But hopefully I'm just wrong. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We're going to move on to our next story here, Fernando. As Discord has postponed its global age verification rollout to the second half of 2026 after significant backlash over privacy concerns, particularly around facial scans and government ID uploads. You see, CTO and co-founder Stanislav Vishnevsky published a blog post Tuesday acknowledging the company missed the mark and that users left the announcement believing Discord was requiring face scans and government IDs from everyone just to use the platform. That's not what's happening, Vishnevsky, tough one, wrote. But the fact that so many people believe it tells us we failed at our most basic job, clearly explaining what we're doing and why. He clarified that over 90% of users would likely never see a verification prompt because it would apply primarily to age-restricted content, and that most adults would be cleared automatically through internal signals such as account age and payment history. The backlash, however, was amplified by a recent breach involving a third-party customer service vendor, which exposed government ID photos of approximately 70,000 users, making the prospect of handing over even more identity data particularly sensitive. Complicating matters further, Discord briefly tested a verification partner backed by Founders Fund, the venture firm associated with Peter Thiel, whose company Palantir has contracts tied to immigration enforcement, raising concerns among users in vulnerable communities. Discord says future verification methods will prioritize on-device facial age estimation, meaning biometric data would not leave the user's phone, and promises transparency reports detailing how often verification is required and which vendors are ultimately involved. The timing here is delicate, as Discord's confidentiality filed for an IPO earlier this year and is reportedly aiming for a public debut in 2026. Now, for those of you watching at home, this matters because age verification laws are expanding globally, and platforms are being forced to choose between regulatory compliance and user privacy trust. And the broader question is not whether child safety is important, it's whether building a global identity infrastructure tied to online activity creates long-term risks that outlive the original policy goal. We're bringing Fernando back. Fernando, when you hear that a platform like Discord might require facial scans or government uploads to access certain content, does that feel reasonable for safety, or maybe is that a step too far? What do you make of this?
I'm always saying it's one step too far. I think that all this global control on the IDs and all this stuff to protect the kids and all thing, I'm against that. I'm 100 against that. I'm not a big user of Discord, but if, let's say, if Twitter requires me to scan my face or whatever to access, I probably will just move to Nostr. So I'm against of all this kind of age verification. I think that social media is not a good place for children or even teenagers, but parents needs to control that. That's the parent shop. So when the government wants to start controlling that, is because they don't give a crap about children. They just want to control population. That's all.
Yeah. No, you make some good points there, Fernando. And, you know, having all this info in a company like this obviously exposes them to some risks. As recently, we had a third-party vendor leak thousands, I think it was 70,000 government IDs. So my question to you, Fernando, is does that change at all how much or how less people should, or how much trust people should have in companies asking for sensitive personal data? I mean, they leaked 70,000 people's IDs. Does that give you even more pause as to volunteering your identification or government IDs to a platform?
I think that people don't think about the risks until the risk happen. People don't just, they give away, because I used to do in the past, right? Facebook asked me for my ID and I send the ID, and even though they promise we will remove after 30 days or whatever, even YouTube, it do be, but for example, for the monetization, you need to send the ID, but at the end of the day, it's because you need to receive money from them. So that's you're doing business with them. But just for social media, just to enter to a platform, but people don't, I think that most of the people don't care about that. They just give away the ID and whatever, and they are not aware of the risk of data leakage that can happen. Now we have all the data connected, everything, just a simple leakage in one stupid website can trigger a lot of problems in the future. So
Yeah.
I think that but most of the people don't care about that.
No, you're so right. And we see it time and again, and not through this arena, but people only care about stuff when it impacts them directly. And it's like until you find out you're part of one of these breaches and you start getting all these emails from Nigerian princes that somehow know your address, you're not going to really think it's a big problem until it hits you where it hurts. So we see that time and again. It's human nature. It is what it is. I don't know. But it is always great having you on the show here, Fernando. I know we're cutting it short a little bit from our normal hour-long time today, but I want to thank you so much for joining us. And of course, you have your own amazing podcast where everyone should be watching. So what's the best place people in our audience can go to catch what you're talking about most recently and see what you're up to? Where can I send them?
Well, the best way to find me is now I'm most active in my YouTube in Spanish. Is Libertarian BTC ESP is the YouTube in Spanish. And from there, you have all my links to all the other social media, so they can go and find my English channel. So that's the best way to find me, Libertarian BTC ESP.
Muy bueno. Well, thank you so much, Fernando. Always an absolute treat having you with us. I want to thank you again, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend, my friend. I know you're living in the future, so I hope good things are coming our way.
Thank you very much, and have a great weekend, you too.
You as well. Thanks, Fernando. All right, we're taking a break here at Roxom TV News. But when we're back, we're going to be diving into the second half of our first hour of programming, which includes another special guest joining us right after this break. So stay tuned. Roxom TV News coming back after this.
This is Alex. Alex spends most of his time thinking like a trader, still deciding what to do with his Bitcoin. While Alex waits for the perfect entry, this is Laura. She's watching the S&P drop. Everyone is suddenly a macro expert. She doesn't panic. This is Tom. No screens, no noise, no stress. While Tom focuses on his swing, his Bitcoin focuses on compounding. Because Bitcoiners don't want more dollars. They want more Bitcoin.
I want more Bitcoin.
The best move is letting your Bitcoin work while you plan the next one. Grow by Roxom. One currency, one place.
Welcome back to Roxom TV News. Our next story brings something a little cosmic to balance out everything happening down here on Earth. Is right now and tomorrow, Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune will appear clustered in the sky just before sunrise in what's commonly called a planetary parade. Despite the dramatic name, this isn't a perfect straight line alignment in space. The planets orbit along roughly the same plane and the ecliptic. So from Earth, they appear lined up across the same stretch of sky. 4 of them, Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, and Saturn, can be seen with the naked eye under good conditions. Uranus and Neptune typically require binoculars or a telescope. And what makes this notable is simply how many bright planets are visible together at once before sunrise, creating a rare pre-dawn lineup. Now, astronomically, it's about perspective, but some see meaning in the timing here. Today, we're joined by artist and astrologer Monika Bravo to explore that very perspective. So, Monika, welcome to the show. How are you this morning? Happy Friday. Thanks for joining us.
Hank, how are you? I'm excited to be here.
I'm doing great, and the planets truly aligned to have you here with us today, so we're super excited to get down to business here. And Monika, you've described this moment as a portal, which is a powerful word. So when you look at the current alignment we're seeing, especially this Mars and Uranus tension that you've mentioned, what is it about this specific window that feels different and unique and special to you? I'd love to get your thoughts.
Okay, so here's the thing, just like it's a very big theme, so I'm going to try to narrow it down. So we are on planet Earth, and we have a lot of celestial bodies going around us. So what we measure when we read the archetypes or astrology, we measure the correlation that there is between 2 planets when they join. Like right now, you see them all in the sky pretty much in the same line. It's because they are very close to one another. And when they have different kind of relationships. So every time there's a new cycle, it's almost like a new moon. Something is seeding. Something is about to grow. But the interesting thing is all of these planets right now, but Mars are in Pisces, and Pisces means the last end of the cycle. So if we think numerology wise, last year was 2025, it amounts to the number 9. That's the end of a cycle. And this year, 2026, is number 1. But that alone is not enough, nor the alignment of these planets tomorrow, which is it's a big deal, but not really. The big deal is that we're in this eclipse season. We had an eclipse that it was tremendous on February 17th. We're going to have another one on 3rd of March, a few days from now. And this window is actually showing us at the same time with 2 big planets, Saturn and Neptune, met a week ago for the first time in 6,000 years at 0 degrees of Aries. That's the very beginning of the zodiac. This is the beginning where there's nothing. We're just emerging to something new. So the eclipses is telling us, like, what are the things that are not working? Today, Mars in that configuration is squaring Uranus, and that means that there's a lot of shakeup. I mean, you have to look at the news this week. I cannot keep up. I have to be discerning because there's so many things that are shaking up and so many things that are being revealed. Neptune and Saturn in Aries actually is allowing the collective to see things as they are, because we just left pretty much 15 years of numbness, ever since like Instagram, influencers, and all these things came on board. We're not seeing what it is, but we're seeing what we want to see. And that includes even Bitcoin, how we relate to it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of deception that is being revealed right now. And so what can we do as individuals is see which part of ourselves we're not seeing our truth, which part of ourselves we're still in like the nebulas. Where do we want to take agency to move to the next step so we can see new things for this new beginning? Because this is a great reset. And last but not least, I don't know, I'm anticipating Bitcoin is going to be coming of age next year. So we can talk about it a little bit, because Bitcoin, you can also do a chart and you can say, okay, January 3rd, 2009, 12 p.m. London time, what was going on in the stars. And there's the eclipses always talk about these places where the ecliptic meets the moon, the orbit of the moon and the sun and the earth, where we see it. And so these are portals of change. So when Bitcoin was born, Aquarius was on the north node, meaning that it's all about technology, it's all about leaving traumatic situations. But guess what? Right now we're repeating the same thing. Unfortunately, I don't think humans really learn, because what we're seeing with all the manipulation in the markets and everything that happened this week with Chain Street and so on and so forth, it's very similar to the subprimes, the behavior, because at the very end, we're reading collective behavior. Markets read how people trade. Astrology reads how you behave, how it's the collective behaving. So I don't know if I spread myself too thin there.
No, I appreciate you breaking that down. I will admit, though, I am more of a beginner when it comes to astrology. I know the Big Dipper or the North Star. I got those down. But I would love to know more, Monika, about how, when you're looking at what's happening with these planets aligning, how does that relate to the markets and the feelings you get about what's happening now? You said there's a lot of kind of things happening not dissimilar to the 2009 period. So what is it you're seeing right now, and what do you feel like that means for the markets going forward, aside from the fact that we might be in for some turbulence is kind of what I'm getting?
Yeah, it is true. And that, there's this nodes, they repeat themselves every 18.6 years. And that conjunction that I spoke about is every 36 years. So it's half of that. So at the very end, we're repeating. Go back to the beginning of globalism, 1989, when the Berlin Wall fell. The whole block fell. You were probably a baby. I was alive, living, and so I understood that this was happening. Right now, we're feeling more or less the same thing, that something big is going to happen, but we don't know exactly when, because it doesn't happen in one day. It starts building up. So we're really building up into something. Now, if you keep tracing those every 18 years, and you will meet, for instance, 1971 at one point. Guess what happened then? You will meet 1933. Guess what happened? So on and so forth. So what you do I do read markets, not because I'm a trader. My aim when I grow up, I want to be a technical analyst, a part of being an artist. I mean, you tell me, my mind is crazy. So I like to understand behavior. So what you see is that things correlate with time, and then you look at events and you go, oh, it's not that the planets are making this happen or we're making happen. We're aligned. This is a wavelength. We are energy, and energy is read in vibrations and in wavelengths. So that's what it is. It's aligning. So I feel that what's happening right now for the future, for the next few months, and what I've been really investigating these days is that when you look at the chart of Bitcoin and inception, it had two planets that they were opposing one another. Saturn is the dad, the authority, the one that is all about institutions. It was in Virgo. Virgo is about discernment. It's about making things right. And it was in the second house that means money, value. Okay, so that's what really Bitcoin came to say. Hey guys, you got to be accountable. You have to be discerning. You have to see that value is subjective, and we're going to put into that. But has another planet in Pisces, that is Uranus, that is the one that is the liberator. So the liberator is in Pisces in the 8th house, which is common values, the things that you marry to. It's very eruptive. It says, of course, we're going to change the world, cyberpunks and everything. But at the very end, it takes like the direction of wanting to be close to the divine. So it makes it almost devotional, this idea of breaking. But what is creating in the chart is this opposition, like a full moon, where both things need to be balanced. Now, since the inception of the ETF, January 2024, I'm going to tell you like in a metaphor. Old families used to marry for convenience. So there was always the guy who is the big guy who wants to marry a young maiden. And he takes a bride. And the bride is very young, but she sees that this is an opportunity to gain some power, some standing in society. So Bitcoin is the young maiden that married the old man. But when Bitcoin came into the household, she's not the only maiden. There's some crypto, there's some gold, there's some other assets. And so now she's trying to negotiate the space, but she sees there's no space because the old man is used to abuse. So Bitcoin wanted so much to be validated that joined the big man. And right now we're there seeing, oh my God, we got into Bitcoin, then we got into the ETFs, everything that runs over there with derivatives, futures and options is a very different game. And I don't think the normal common Bitcoiner understands the market, and they should, because they give their power away. So again, it's the little girl that yearns to be in this beautiful house, but when she is in the house, she has no power. Bitcoin has no power right now. Like the normal Bitcoiner just sees the price go down without understanding what it is. And it is because it's being repressed. Now, good thing is that things are being revealed. So we see where the repression is. But are we as humans going to learn something, or we're still going to be, propelled by greed?
Right. Well, I'd be curious, Monica, the last 5 or so months in the Bitcoin space, we've seen some pretty dramatic changes, specifically with the price action, although the fundamentals seem very similar to they were just 5 months ago. So my question to you is, were there any signs or indicators you were seeing in the sky that would have maybe led you to believe that we could have seen that big drawdown before it happened, outside of the, semi-predictable Bitcoin cycles we've experienced over the years?
Yeah, obviously, because we were, before Saturn and Neptune conjuncted a week ago, they were in a balsamic relationship. That means that the planet that is about responsibility, accountability, was closing and getting like close to the one that is full of illusions and delusions. So guess what? A lot of people started lending, especially the people who are losing all their coins in collateral, people who don't see reality. So I knew that a lot of the things that we're witnessing in the collective are, half of them are illusions, and they're delusions. So I knew that we were going to be pretty rug pull one way or another. And I said from the very beginning of those, like, people offering lending, I'm like, you don't do that. Even if like one person does it because it works for him, we don't need to name names. Everybody else is everybody else is running to do it. I mean, he has done the math. He's an engineer, so let him have his chicken, and eat it. Like, but do we as normal? And I've heard so many people in the Bitcoin space, like really, really, gambling. So I knew
Yeah.
that was what's going to happen. I saw it coming. And then when I read markets, see how it's so controlled. Even though, for instance, last year we were sideways, but if you look at the price of right now we're 67,400, right? But we were 109 in December 24, you know, a little bit over the 100.
Yeah.
And then it went down to 74 on April 7. And it had a lot to do with eclipses as well, but I'm not going to get into that. So you can see with eclipses what's happening. This week we're into eclipses, so things might change. You know, FTX was doing an eclipse, Terra Luna was doing an eclipse. So if you look at eclipses, they mark changes in behavior, because this is what we're seeing. Now, 74,000 in April met 300 days later, I can't remember, it was January, had the same price. So I'm not so shocked that things are going so low and so high. Even though they're being repressed and manipulated, the market doesn't work on a straight line. That's what people have to understand, that the equilibrium is a process. So we're also reflecting that. So what I think that is going to happen, I'm not going to predict price, but I will see that there's a bull market coming. You know, wait until the summer. That we're going to go up and down because the market is always correcting itself. And if those things that were revealed this week are true, maybe we're going to see less repression. But are we going to kill everybody who's doing derivatives? I mean, I have a lot of friends that do that. Like, am I going to go to their house and go, stop doing it? I mean, these people, that's what they do for a living. The thing is that what it happens is brings light to the commoner to see if it's better to have a coin in a cold wallet or have it as an ETF. I think this is what people have to understand, that paper Bitcoin is not Bitcoin. And that's what is being manipulated. So it's just about education. It's education.
Yeah. No, absolutely. We appreciate you sharing both your technical analysis combined with what the writing in the stars is. Because so we're thinking what it sounds like you're telling me, and let me just make sure I'm getting this accurately, Monica. It's like we're going to see some crab walking for probably the foreseeable future. But the second half of this year, it seems like the planets and stars are aligning for Bitcoin. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, but the thing is that Bitcoin doesn't act alone.
Right.
Bitcoin needs every Bitcoiner. So every decision we make that is sound, that is accountable, that has like a purity to it, is going to affect the behavior of Bitcoin. But if I'm greedy and I'm just going to do whatever great people do, that's the outcome. So, but I'm telling you, astrologically, this is great because we had the big conjunction, but we have by May, June this year, we're going to have a lot of things changing. The world's going to be so different because we're going to have Uranus enter Gemini. We saw it a little bit last summer. And so that's why the whole like eruption of AI and everybody wanting to have an agent this week is crazy. It's like people don't need to have an agent if they don't even know what AI is for. But that's the stupidity that I see, that people don't learn about technology and understand what is technology for. Learn about Bitcoin to see what Bitcoin is for and who are you giving money to, right? Like the big man in the house, or you're supporting the young bride that has no idea who she married, you know?
Right.
So that's what I see. But I do see that there's a big opening of awareness. There's a lot of clarity, and the more you are clear and true to your own delusions, the better off for Bitcoin. But it depends on each one of us, because Bitcoin belongs to the people. It's a very open source, and it gives value to the people who want to give value to. There's no boss. We know that. So
no, I totally agree with you, and people need to do their own research. And I've talked to hundreds of Bitcoiners, and it's always the same process. They read about it, they kind of dismiss it at first, they come back to it, they do the homework, and then they realize, like, how did I not see this the first time? So it's a very common thread, and that actually ties into what I want to talk about next. Is I want to talk about this story with you we have about what's going on with Indiana lawmakers in Bitcoin. So stay tuned, Monica. I'm going to bring you back in just a second, because currently in the state of Indiana, we have lawmakers have passed a bill advancing legislation that would allow public retirement and savings plans to offer Bitcoin exposure through regulated exchange traded funds. And the bill now heads to Governor Mike Braun's desk, where it's expected to be signed. Now, it is important to clarify that what this legislation actually does. You see, the bill does not require the state to allocate pension funds into Bitcoin, nor does it mandate direct custody by state officials. Instead, it permits public employees to access Bitcoin ETFs through self-directed brokerage accounts within existing retirement structures, meaning that participation would be optional and handled through regulated financial products. Now, Indiana is not acting alone on this. You see, recent months have seen a wave of state-level proposals, including digital asset reserve initiatives in Kansas, reserve frameworks in Florida, and strategic reserve discussions in Missouri and West Virginia that could include Bitcoin alongside gold and silver. The pattern suggests that the debate has evolved from whether Bitcoin should exist to how it should be integrated responsibly into public finance. We're bringing Monika back. Monika, what stands out to you about Indiana's approach here? Not mandating Bitcoin, not forcing the state to custody it, but quietly allowing regulated ETF access inside of retirement accounts. What are your initial thoughts on this? I know you're not super into the ETFs. We know it's not really holding Bitcoin. What do you make of this? Is this progress or maybe something else because the ETFs are involved? What are your thoughts?
Well, it's again disguising the bride or the husband as like, oh, this is a great potential. We're being backed up by like government. I mean, hello, Bitcoiners, government, Bitcoin, it doesn't work. So this is an interesting and sad thing. Bitcoin has always been longing to be accepted, to be adopted, but it has given itself its own power away to the institutions that all they do is manipulate. I wouldn't trust government right now until I don't see a lot of people in prison. I wouldn't because all they do is steal money from the people who still, sign the annual contract on 14 or 15 of April, Some people do, some people don't. So it's interesting. It is all about the disguise. So what we have to look is like, what's behind the intention and not what we're listening to. I learned that when I trained in martial arts. You do not, like they say, oh, adoption. Oh, we're going to have a power of engaging with the asset directly. Yeah, but it's still paper Bitcoin. It's still paper Bitcoin.
Right. No, you're totally right. And I'd be curious, what are your thoughts on us now starting to see multiple states exploring reserve frameworks and digital asset legislation for Bitcoin and others? Like, do you think that this is a step forward, or, does this maybe risk us like co-opting Bitcoin with the very things it was, kind of supposed to be against, the institutional money, government printing? Like, what are your thoughts on how we're seeing Bitcoin kind of merged into traditional finance? Is that a good thing? Was it always inevitable, or is that maybe bad for Bitcoin in the long term? Where do you land on that one, Monika?
I think we need a prenup.
We need a prenup.
Yeah, because Bitcoin is the most valuable asset out there, and people are just painting it as like part of the system. No, it is not. But Bitcoiners are giving it away. So we need to understand, what does that mean? And it's not adoption. I'm sorry, it's not adoption, and it's not gonna save anybody. Government doesn't save anybody.
Right. No, you're very true. And, Monika, you have such an interesting and unique view of the world in Bitcoin. And I got a feeling it's definitely resonated with at least a couple of our viewers here this morning. So if there are more people in our audience that said, you know what, I really like the cut of Monika's jib and I want to see what she's up to and learn more of what she's doing, what's the best place I can send them so they can see whatever you're covering, whatever hot takes you might have in the business? Because I got a feeling you've got an audience that's waiting to get more from you.
Well, thank you so much for that. Yeah, I write on my blog in Substack. It's called monikabravo.blog. And I have separated, like, I write a lot of personal stuff because I'm very much into personal development and seeing how I can evolve as a human being. But I write with storytelling, a little bit like, with the maiden that gets married. That's my style of writing. Then not long ago, like 6 months ago, I started as an accountability system to write about the markets, to read the charts and share. But now I'm sharing because that's when I started realizing everything was so like, this is not really working. I'm looking at the markets every day and writing about it. Like, what is this red candle? And then I started reading about other people and saying, oh, I have to investigate. And so I spent hours investigating the behavior, because at the very end is that. So I have that. And then from time to time, like I get on podcasts and stuff like that. So I share that there. But yeah, you can just get there. If you want to have a reading with me, I do personal readings. So there's a lot. If you just want to have fun, you can also contact me, because I love jokes. So
I love it. I love it, Monica. Well, we've absolutely had a blast having you here on Roxom TV News. So I really want to thank you for lending your time and your insights and expertise with us this morning. It's been a real blast, and I hope you have an amazing weekend, and we hope to see you again real soon.
Yes, thank you, Hank. Enjoy the shaky atmosphere, because the last thing I'm gonna say,
I'm gonna try.
the last thing I'm gonna
Yeah.
say, when there is movement, there is evolution. So when there is tension,
Right.
is an opportunity to evolve. This is where we are right
I
now.
love it.
Okay.
It's a great note to end on. I love it. Thank you, Monica, so much, and have a great weekend. We'll see you next time.
Okay. Take care. Bye bye.
Cheers. Thank you. All right, we're taking a break here at Roxom TV News, but when we return, I'm going to be joined by my co-host for the hour, the most patriotic man in Bitcoin, Walker America, as we'll be talking shop with the one and only Gary Cardone for the next hour. It's going to be exciting, and you won't want to miss it. So stay tuned. More Roxom TV News coming your way after this quick break. Are you interested in effortlessly growing your Bitcoin portfolio? I sure am. And the Bitcoin credit card by Gemini earns you Bitcoin back on every purchase. You can use it like any credit card, buy lunch, gas, or your weekly groceries, and you'll earn up to 4% back instantly in Bitcoin or one of over 50 other cryptos straight to your account. All that with no annual fee, and right now, you can grab a $200 Bitcoin welcome bonus. It's the easiest way to start building your Bitcoin stack. Just go to Gemini.com to learn more. All right, gang, we are diving into the second hour of today's show. But before we do, I want to give a quick recap of what we covered during the first half of today's show. So we began with Hillary Clinton as she spent more than 6 hours testifying behind closed doors about Jeffrey Epstein, saying she had no knowledge of his crimes and does not recall meeting him, while Bill Clinton now prepares to testify under subpoena, the first former president to do so in over 40 years. Now, the broader issue isn't just the Clintons or Trump's name appearing in the same files, but how Epstein maintained access to powerful circles for decades, and whether this investigation stays serious or slides into partisan theater. Next, Paramount moved forward with the largest media merger in history, agreeing to acquire Warner Brothers Discovery in a roughly $111 billion deal after Netflix declined to raise its bid. The merger would consolidate major brands like CBS, CNN, HBO, and Warner Brothers under one roof, raising questions about media power, political optics, and whether regulators will treat scale and influence as separate issues or one and the same. And finally, Jack Dorsey announced that Block is cutting more than 4,000 employees, arguing that AI has fundamentally changed how companies operate and that smaller, flatter teams can now do the same work. Wall Street rewarded the move immediately, sending the stock sharply higher, which raises a bigger question for viewers at home. Is AI truly transforming productivity at that scale, or has AI become the new acceptable reason to cut costs and boost share prices? And joining me for this second hour of programming, we have the one and only Walker America and our special guest, Gary Cardone. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us this morning, especially you, Gary. How are you this Friday? Great having you.
Doing good after a few technical difficulties. Appreciate you guys being patient with me.
Oh, of course, of course. We're just pumped to have you here, and we've got a lot to talk about, Gary, so let's not waste anybody's time and just get into it. And I want to start with kind of the state of the nation when it comes to Bitcoin, because the last couple of months, as all of us here are aware, has been a little tumultuous. We saw Bitcoin run up to 120-ish. Mainstream headlines declared a new era, and then just as quickly we pulled back to 60K, which predictably brought out a lot of the I told you so crowd. Peter Schiff is certainly having a moment. But I want to ask you, Gary, when you step back and you look at the full arc, the euphoria, the correction, the sentiment swing, what do you think the cycle that we're experiencing right now actually reveals about where Bitcoin sits today and the broader financial system? I'd love to get your first thoughts.
Well, I think Bitcoin's going through. Bitcoin's 17 years old. It's behaving that way, and it's all dressed up and ready to go to the prom, but the real money hasn't really met Bitcoin yet. And I think in the echo chambers, the people that follow Bitcoin, it's seems like it's the center of the universe and everything, the gravity is Bitcoin, but the truth is that's not the truth. Okay, the truth is that the old legacy system is where the gravity is, and in order for Bitcoin to be relevant on the world stage, it needs more time. It needs more marketing. It needs more tools. And without trying to offend the purist in Bitcoin, it needs Wall Street's products. Otherwise, Bitcoin will never make it will never be a relevant member or player on the world stage. I don't think.
Gary, can I ask you specifically on the Wall Street side of things? Obviously, we've seen the ETFs launch, right? It's the most successful ETF for BlackRock right now is IBIT. Massive amount of inflows. I think more than basically any analyst was predicting, except maybe the most bullish ones. But what other sorts of products, you talk about it needs Wall Street's products. What do you have in mind there specifically, kind of outside of the existing adoption we've seen for ETFs, outside of what, let's say, Strategy is doing with their different products that they have, or the Bitcoin treasury companies? Are you thinking about kind of another vector in terms of Wall Street?
Yeah, I think there'll be we're 3 years old, paper, the paper part of Bitcoin, 3 years old max, and you'll have insurance companies using Bitcoin as a wrapper for insurance. It's an awesome insurance product. Real estate, I think you'll see people like my brother doing more and more hybrid real estate stuff. It's not going to be the tokenization that I don't think it's going to be the tokenization that people thought about, especially on those non-fungible assets, equities, bonds. I can see why the tokenization would have value. Question will be, hey, does AI actually solve a lot of problems that tokens were supposed to solve? Because tokens are really just a gift card. I mean, it's just a new word for gift card and attempt to retain a customer and build customer loyalty, brand loyalty. We just keep changing the names and trying to repackage these things and sell them differently. So it's not like tokens are a new thing. It's a new word. Most people within 20 years of my age don't know what a freaking token is. Okay. You're going to have to make this really simple for people, and we can belittle people for their lack of knowledge about finance and money, but that is the customer that we want in Bitcoin. And the last time I checked, when you have a great product, the greatest product in the world, you don't make your customers feel like idiots. And you don't make it difficult for them to understand, and you don't make it difficult for them to adopt all the things that Bitcoin has gone out of its way to do. And I'm not trying to be negative about Bitcoin, but the reason I brought up the 17 years is that 17-year-old thinks he knows everything about everything. And the truth is they know very little about anything because they have no experience upon which to make these decisions, these judgments, right? These criticisms. Oh, the world's so broken. Well, that sounds like a 17-year-old to me, 18. And it is broken. Okay, I got it. But I think we're just 17 and we're volatile, and we think we're getting ready to go to $190,000 and we fail. 17-year-olds tend to brag too much. They tend to, oversell their product. And I think, if we socialize Bitcoin and its issues, this explanation probably is the best fit for where we are and why we're here and where we're headed. We have to mature.
Yeah. The 17-year-old analogy I find really interesting, Gary, specifically because we're at this time in Bitcoin's journey where we are seeing a lot of these new products being built around Bitcoin. We have lending solutions, the ETFs, the Bitcoin proxies like MicroStrategy, what you and your brother are doing at Cardone Capital. Of those, aside from what you're doing at Cardone Capital, are there any of these products that you're really high on and excited about? And alternatively, are there any others that you're like, I don't think this has legs and we'll just kind of wait and see how this plays out? I'd be curious to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So look, to be clear, Cardone Capital, that's my brother's deal. He does real estate. He loves real estate. It's not my deal. I think I have 7 investments with him across the 42. And they're good deals. I mean, I basically have real estate position with my brother. I have a cost basis of near zero now. This is the thing that Bitcoiners don't understand. Over 10 years, Grant will have sent me back all my principal, $7 million ish. maybe it was 3.5 or something like that. But, you know, it's not small amount of money, but it's not massive amount of money. I think I'm in 7 deals. I think I've gotten all my principal back. Plus I get distributions every month, 50, 60 grand a month. Those are taxable. He depreciates the assets. He amortizes the assets. I mean, there's so many tax plays around real estate. The other thing that's really cool about real estate is that it does not have a chart. And I can assure you that if you went and audited my brother's real estate holdings, the 7 that I am in, it would be very difficult to get a definitive value on those. Okay. Like you can't just go to 1403 Smith Street in Houston, Texas, go, what's that apartment building worth right now? Whereas Bitcoin, you know exactly what its value is today, instantly, pure liquidity, not a discount, not, hey, I need to sell Saturday morning, so it's going to trade at a 20% discount. No, it's the price today, $66,000, and I can do $1 billion or I could do $2. That's really cool. Now, putting these two products together, very interesting. One generates fiat. That fiat then reinvest in Bitcoin. That's cool. This is the problem with every SBR and every strategic reserve company or supposed strategic reserve company. But let's talk about the products. STRC, which is a MicroStrategy product, was launched 6 months ago. I went to my bank. I have several $1 million sitting in bonds to offset a loan they gave me at 5.5% or 5%, something like that. And I called them up after being in there for 2 years, and I said, hey, look, you have me stuck in these bonds. This is a risk management thing for them. They stick me in the bonds, they make a fee on it, and they know they're probably not going to implode. They're as good as cash, except on Saturdays and Sundays and Mondays and bank holidays. They're not as good as Bitcoin. And so I went to them, and I knew they wouldn't allow me to move the bonds to Bitcoin or an ETF, but I said, hey, move it to STRC. 3 bank guys at lunch. One of them's the head guy. I said, look, STRC. They said, STRC, what's that? So I had to tell them. I said, look, it's paying 11.5%. You got me in a bond at 3.5. I triple my returns inside your bank if you let me go into the I want you to go to your risk management team. I want you to explain to them STRC. I know it's only 6 months old, but it's backed by MicroStrategy, and it sits in the preferred stack above MicroStrategy stock, which you've already loaned me a shitload of money against. So I know you're going to approve this, but y'all don't even know it's there. And you should get every one of your customers into this. Now, if I go to the Bitcoin community, the great marketers that they are, they will say that I'm not buying Bitcoin. And they would be right. I am not buying Bitcoin. I am acquiring an 11.5% yield product, okay, which is a fiat product. And guess what? I moved fiat in a bond at 3% to a fiat product at 11.5%, which is kind of smart for a Bitcoin guy. Why wouldn't you want a Bitcoin guy making more returns? And secondly, Michael Saylor just bought $3 million worth of Bitcoin because of that purchase. If you guys think that's wrong and bad, I don't understand how you think you're going to get to $30 trillion, because the people that you're competing with to get to that $30 trillion bucket, they use all these tools. So it is so weird. Okay. It is so weird and paranoid to me that you're going to become a major player on the world stage, but you hate all these products. I don't see how this works. Okay. I don't see how you're going to be.
I don't hate these products.
No, but some, right? It's, and this is where the maturity needs to come from, because I have a sister that calls me up every 4 weeks and says, did Epstein create Bitcoin? Hey, that guy got all his money stolen in Bitcoin, you know? Hey, I heard the ETFs were sins to Bitcoin. Like, that's not cool, dude. She's got millions of dollars sitting around in banks, and all that money should be plowed into Bitcoin. Yet she has this, ooh, Bitcoin's bad. Because people tend to listen to weird news, and it sticks more than they do Well, Bitcoin's up 22% in the last 12 years, or whatever the number is. They like bad news, that people are scared to move money around. It's, migration. Migration is a term that's used in the credit card industry. It's very hard to migrate customers from one bank to another. Okay. Y'all look at that and go, hey, why do they stay with Bank of America? Because they've been with Bank of America 30 years, man. It's like having a wife, right? Like they know the PIN codes. They know the account numbers. They've got Sally at the secretary and she's always helpful. So this is inertia, man. And it's like you're trying to disrupt something really, really massive. And I just get back to 17 years. We're doing awesome for 17 years.
$2 trillion asset. Pretty good.
1.3 today, but,
Formally,
yeah. And look, we've made a lot of mistakes. I mean, Bitcoin's having to pull the gravity of all the token market. Okay. The entire token market, which has really diluted Bitcoin's value, both in thesis and I think in monetary value. It's really dinged it. And this is true because the people like the founder of Litecoin and others are going, hey, I should have just stuck with the Bitcoin thing. We would all be much richer.
Yeah. Amen to that. I got another question for you, Gary. We've talked about like education for Bitcoin is so important, right? And one of the most common critiques that still seems to show up is that Bitcoin doesn't generate cash flow. It's not a company. So how do you properly value it? And when you hear a statement like that in 2026, after the ETFs, sovereign discussions, and corporate treasury allocations we've seen over the past year, do you think that type of critique kind of misses the point entirely? Or is there something about Bitcoin's valuation framework that people are still kind of struggling with? I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
Well, a house evidently is a great investment, but it doesn't generate cash. In fact, it takes cash every month just to run it. And then you got to pay annual taxes. A business that I built, I think 7 businesses in, a few decades. Every business I've ever had was illiquid. It didn't have a token that anybody appreciated. It didn't have any value that I would call Bain Capital and I'd call, Steve McLaughlin. Hey, I got this great business. And these are investment bankers. Well, Gary, it's a great idea, Gary. And when you get some traction, call me, or when you get more traction, call me. None of these businesses generated positive cash flow in the first 4 years. And none of the super trillion-dollar businesses that you guys admire, none of them created any positive cash flow for the first 6 or 7 years. Amazon, I don't think, created cash for 11 years or something. So it's heavy debt load. And like, there's not a lot of debt on Bitcoin. Yes, it's not generating cash, but it also has no requirements for maintenance, insurance, operating expenses. I have expanded my Bitcoin holdings by probably 100x in 5 years, and I have not added one staff member.
True. It is simple.
Well, it's a business. If I was mining uranium right now, breaking my back as a 60-year-old, and I went and bought heavy equipment, and I made a big announcement, Cardone Metals Capital, just, we're going to go IPO, and we're going to go, Gary Cardone's going to be in the mines pulling uranium out. You would say, wow, what a champion. What an animal. But when I tell you that I mine fiat to buy Bitcoin, and then I'm going to teach myself how to paint, and I'm going to read more books, and I'm going to study, people go, well, what kind of business is that? So it's this mindset that I have to go break my hands, hurt my body, destroy my life to make something, when in reality, there may be a digital form of doing business that no one's really understood, but maybe it doesn't require me to break my back and invest in massive amounts of machinery and people. See, every business I've ever had, the risk was always one thing. human error. Either I go crazy or somebody in my universe goes crazy. And it could be a regulator, it could be a partner, it could be my customers. I could get lazy, whatever, right? But lots of I could get sick. You know, if I get sick, nothing happens to my Bitcoin business.
That's true.
Interesting, huh? By the way,
Yeah,
no regulator can fuck with me. And I think I'm buying into a monopoly, but I have no monopoly regulatory exposure. And if I painted that up in a business for you and said, dude, I'm going to get a growth rate, not of 40%, not of 80%, not of 22%, but of 12% a year for the next 20 years. I have my capital expenses, my operating expenses, all I have is a $10,000 a year accounting technology that I need to deploy onto my Bitcoin, and I need to be fucking patient. I will have greater liquidity than my brother will have on any of his real estate. I will have greater liquidity than I have in the 3 or 4 deals I still have open that I can't get out of. One's almost 15 years old. They're private deals, you know? So I don't think people are really looking at Bitcoin as a core business. But I look at it as an absolute core business with no human error risk. It's the greatest risk-adjusted investment I can possibly make. Risk-adjusted being the key operating principle terms there. You know, the risk-reward for me, the upside is tremendous. The downside is relatively nothing.
Gary, I'm curious too. I mean, just the way you talk about Bitcoin, this is something you've thought about a lot. You just mentioned you'd 100x'd your holdings in the last 5 years. I mean, that's a significant scaling up of that. What was the actual moment for you where Bitcoin clicked? Like, presumably it was before 5 years ago or somewhere thereabouts. But when was it for you, and what was it, I guess, that finally made you kind of flip that switch on to now be where you are right now in terms of the conviction that you're speaking about Bitcoin with?
Well, I think it's a good question, right? So I think you have to go back and, hey, what's this guy's background? So I have an economics and marketing background. I spent 25 years in commodities helping the energy market and natural gas and electricity, which, by the way, are the most violent commodities on the planet. Okay, it makes Bitcoin look like a little girl in her diapers. Okay, seriously, it's not violent at all. Y'all talk about, oh, it's so violent. I'm like, wow, have you ever seen anything trade in 3 hours? $1,500 a megawatt or negative numbers. I've seen crude oil trade at negative numbers. Now gas trade at negative numbers. So that will never happen with Bitcoin. So I have a really, really deep commodity background. My economics education, I still remember to this day the professor saying, when supply exceeds demand, prices will fall. And when demand exceeds supply, prices will go up. And he drew this chart. And every business I've ever gone into after that would have that core principle. If it doesn't have a supply and demand metric that I can measure, I will not play in the game. Like, that's why I don't do real estate. I think real estate is infinite. Like, grow it vertically, grow it vertically down, grow it sideways. It's just endless. And technology is going to make homes cheaper to live in, and people are going to use smaller and smaller spaces. So I think the natural gas stuff and the power stuff, if you can see where Exxon that 200 men could turn energy, natural gas and electricity, which defines whether you're a first or second or third world nation, if 200 men could regulate or deregulate electricity and natural gas such that it really works perfectly today, it's the greatest energy. The energy markets are the most competitive markets in the world, which is hilarious. And they are the very foundation by which Bitcoin and all of finance is done. If there's no electricity, there is no credit card. There's no ATMs, there's no checks, there's no wires, there's nothing. And there's no Bitcoin either. So, I spent 10 years in the payments industry, and the holes in the payment industry are so vast that I don't think Bitcoiners need to attack Visa and MasterCard. In fact, I would suggest you stop doing that. They're bigger than you are by like, they're giants. Okay. So understanding how disruption works, it was really easy for me in 2020 to go, this is happening. I mean, I looked at this in 16, didn't like the maturity level, didn't like the Roger Ver arguments and what's right and what's wrong. Then came in 2020 and started buying fairly aggressively. But my purchases, the 100x volume has come in the last 3 years. And this is what has dawned on me. This is going to be the problem, I think, with Bitcoin, is that you have 5 to 6 million Bitcoin that are priced at $300, $1,000, let's call it, in a $66,000 market. And then you got the other coins that are priced at the 70, 80,000. This spread is way too big. And by the way, I made a big mistake. If I would have understood HODL meant just hold on, but don't acquire anymore, I might not have come here. See, I would like to see the hodlers, and I would just encourage all of you to start pushing the hodlers to either unwind their position, their $300 Bitcoin, which gives them zero incentives to do anything. There is no motive for them to ever do anything. I think this was a fundamental mistake Satoshi made, actually, how they were issued in the volume and the pricing. 5 million coins need to come in the market and get repriced at $70,000. The spread between these two players is too big. The hodlers are asking me and my brother and people like us, hey, you guys go long at 80. Y'all deserve Bitcoin at the price you bought it. Yes. Idiots. You see the message there? I'm listening to these guys, and these guys are my friends, but I'm like, hey, dude, you're asking me to carry the weight here. You haven't bought any Bitcoin. Oh, yeah, Gary, I buy Bitcoin every month. $300, dude. You have 10,000 Bitcoin, and you're buying $300 worth of Bitcoin a month at 70 grand. That's not cool. At least stop telling the audience you're buying Bitcoin, because they think you're buying in size. They think you're buying like Gary. So no one talks about this issue, okay? But if you had natural gas or crude oil, imagine if Exxon had 45% of all the crude oil on planet Earth priced at 1 penny. They have no storage cost, which isn't true for energy, by the way. They have zero storage cost. A Bitcoiner has no storage cost. He has no incentive to move. He has no expense of holding that. That's why I like this product so much, because I'm like, wow, I can store money and not have a monthly fee. It costs 30 cents a decatherm. That's a unit of natural gas to store gas per month, man. 30 cents. The product's $3.50. Okay, yeah. Crude oil takes $5 a month on a $60 product. Bitcoin costs nothing to store forever and ever and ever. Wow. So this is a problem. I think it's a fundamental problem, the fundamental problem of Bitcoin.
Yeah. And Gary,
go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, you make some really interesting points, and it's not surprising to me why we see so many people come up to you and your brother looking for advice, where they think the market is going and what they should be doing. And I wanted to see if you were game. We're halfway through our time this morning. If we switch things up a little bit, and we invented a pretty fun game that we played with your brother, and we're hoping to play with you, called Cardo, Cardone. You think you're ready to play this with us? And I'll explain.
Let's go, dude. Let's go. Okay, we're game players, right, so well, you'll never hear no from us as long as it's ethical.
I love it. Oh, it's very ethical and it's very fun. So let me explain you the rules here, Gary. Walker and I are going to alternate asking you questions that you probably get all the time. And it's really simple. You got to tell us if you think it's a card do and you should do it, or it's a card don't and you should avoid it. Simple enough?
Love it.
All right, so here we go. I'm going to start first, and then I want to know your reasoning behind it too, because knowing the answer isn't enough. We want to really mine into your infinite wisdom here. So feel free to tell us why you.
I may start a show called this Cardo, Cardone. I like it.
Well, patent pending, but we'll talk about that later.
I'll pay you a royalty.
I love it. I love it. All right, here we go, Gary. So my first one for you. Would you rather, Cardone or Cardone, are you taking 10 million in cash right now or 5 million in Bitcoin? So Cardone or Cardone, you're taking the cash.
For
What are your
don't
thoughts?
on the
Cardone,
cash.
why not? It's double the amount. You couldn't flip that through other means, or you still think even at half the value right now, Bitcoin's the smarter play?
You're saying I take $10 million worth of cash or $5 million worth
Or
of
five
Bitcoin?
in Bitcoin
Excuse
right
me.
now. And you can do whatever you want with the cash.
Cardone on the cash, and I will Cardone immediately into Bitcoin.
Ah, you got too clever
I'll
with me on that one.
I'll arbitrage your question there.
All right, that's fair. All right, you got a little too clever with that one. Let's see if you can stump Walker on this one. You're up, buddy.
All right, this one's it's a slightly different, but we're sitting at the blackjack table. Gary, you're showing 16. Dealer flops a 10. Are you hitting? Cardone or Cardone?
Or don't.
There we go. You're playing it.
I think I agree with that
Playing
one.
it straight.
Yeah, you lose if you hit, you're done. But like if you don't hit, you still got a chance, right? I'm on that boat too.
It's got to be consistent.
Here we go. Yeah, they have those little cards you can do that tell you the right move anyway. So just get one of those. All right, here we go. Next one, Gary. Bitcoin hits 500K. Cardone or Cardone throwing a full-blown orange theme party and inviting the doubters and the haters to show them what they missed.
Or fucking do, man. I'll tell you what, when it hits 500 grand, I'll throw a $200,000 party outside.
Heck yeah. Where's that party having at? Where you having?
I'm having one 28th right out here.
Oh.
So you guys are invited.
All right.
I'm going to hold you to it. I'm just going to show up, Walker and I hand in hand. We'll bring gifts, though. We appreciate the invite. All right.
Or do.
All right.
Love it.
So this one, taking more of a stance toward the government here, but let's say the government offers a tax break for anyone selling Bitcoin, a little different capital gains treatment, something like that. Are you going to end up selling some if they offer some sort of a tax break there, or are you still just going to be hodling it no matter what?
Well, I'm not a hodler. I'm an acquirer. So I will keep buying. If they do tax relief, look, I think on the small retail stuff, it wouldn't make any difference to me at all. If they said all capital gains are gone, is that what you're suggesting? All capital gains are gone on Bitcoin? I think all the Cardone, the Cardone answer would be all the whales will sell like monsters. This is a stupid thing to want, by the way. To be treated differently than oil or any other commodity is why we don't need any special treatment. We need nothing from the government. But I think the $300 guys would sell aggressively. That's why they went into all these reserve companies and treasury companies. But it wouldn't change my behavior. And by the way, right now, anybody that is not one of those 4 million coins wouldn't sell because they're all at a loss. They're all at a loss. I think you got a good 50% of the markets in a loss of $6,000 or $7,000 today at least. So but we shouldn't.
Okay.
My Cardone is do not treat Bitcoin differently than you treat anything else.
Okay. Like it. All right. Moving on. Here's one for you. Gary, Bitcoin drops 70% tomorrow, but the protocol remains unchanged. You're sleeping peacefully, Cardone or Cardone, you're getting a good night's sleep.
Cardone is getting a good night's sleep no matter what the price of Bitcoin is. My life has nothing to do with the price of Bitcoin.
Love it. Love to hear it. All right, you're up, Walker.
Okay, so somebody comes up to you and says, money can't buy happiness. Is agreeing with that statement a Cardone or a Cardone?
Well, Cardone on the word happiness, since it has no common definition, I'm going to Cardone on happiness, Cardone on joy, Cardone on accomplishing something and feeling good about yourself. But happy is a weird thing. I'm pretty sure Walker and my happiness is very different, man. What turns you on and turns me on is just going to be so different.
We all got our kinks, guys.
But the money, I will say Cardone on being broke, Cardone on the fact that even being miserable is better when you're rich.
Yeah.
It is,
Fair
man.
enough.
It is. Believe me, I've been both.
Yeah. All right. All right. Sticking kind of with that. Here we go. This one I'm excited about, Gary. Your brother Grant increases his Bitcoin allocation
You
aggressively.
can't get bigger than me, man. We're
Well, I was gonna say,
we're competing now.
I was going to ask, do you match him just to keep the sibling rivalry alive and well? Cardone matching your brother's Bitcoin purchases.
I will tell a do on Grant. Grant calls me up when he finally like it all clicked on him. He said, "Well, how many do you have?" And I knew immediately. He's like, he wants to know so he can just go buy one more than me. I don't think we'll do I don't think we'll get into it will be a Cardone because he's raising money from people. I don't raise money from anyone. And I won't raise any money from anyone. I don't like it. Don't like the public markets. Don't like all the attention. Remember, I have an asset that I think is human errorless. I don't need any partners, man.
Yeah.
Which is part of the era, because when you have partners, people want to get out at different times. They have different things that happen in their life. Bitcoin's truly, like, if you really think it through, it removes all the risks that I can't control, except one or two. It really removes a tremendous amount of risk that I don't control, and only leaves me with one or two others that time fixes those two issues. So I've never had an investment where I could invest in a monopoly and not have any human error risk, not have to deal with a lawyer. Those are important things to me.
Yeah.
Not to have to sign any documents, even. Just you don't understand any of the documents you sign. Your NDAs, you don't understand. Hey, that comma was missing, man. I know lawyers that will argue over a comma and make a shitload of money per hour doing it at my expense.
Yeah.
So I don't have any of that.
Yeah. All right. I think one more each, Walker. What do you got? Let's wrap up.
Is this too boring? It's not too exciting on a Friday for you guys.
No,
this is exciting.
I love it.
We just got more questions to ask.
Go ahead.
I want to ask.
Don't ask me about my sex life, though.
Okay, well, dang. Okay, I'm skipping to the next question then.
Next question.
Yeah, okay, so let's say you're offered a role advising the U.S. government on Bitcoin and energy policy. Is taking the job a Cardone?
Cardone.
That was quick.
Fuck God, dude. I ain't working with the government.
Fair enough.
All right.
Can't blame you there.
That was a very steadfast answer. Last one.
You know why? You know why, Walker?
Yeah.
I have learned over a lifetime that if you stand close to a toilet, at some point it will need to be washed and cleaned. And the closer you get to it, I'm pretty sure you're going to get some specks on you. Okay. And I want nothing to do with it at all.
I can't blame you there. I'm right there with you.
Spent 3 days in Washington. And I was like, I gotta get the fuck out of this place. Dude. This place is sick.
Yeah, that's enough of Washington. All right, one more, and then we're going to move on. Here's the last one. One more time with your brother. Grant tells you to sell all your Bitcoin and rotate it into Dogecoin because he's got a hot tip. You're fighting him on it. Cardo or Cardone?
Cardone. I will just laugh at him. I won't fight him at all. I'll just laugh at his ass.
That's some brotherly love.
It's very funny you ask that because one of these Bitcoin early buyers, the $300 guys that haven't bought Bitcoin in 12 years, but he sits on podcast every day telling other people to buy it. He came up with this thing that suggested that Gary had sold all his Bitcoin, and Grant heard about it. Grant comes on his show, and Grant's like, "Well, dude, like Gary sold it." I just got Grant into like thousands of Bitcoin, right? And he's sitting there going, "Shit, Gary sold at 120." We hadn't talked for days. He called me up. "Hey, man." I said, "Yeah, dude, I just had to get out." He said, No, I didn't do it to him. But that was the pitch, and I'm sure it made him a little nervous. Like, oh shit, man, what does Gary know that I don't know? I will card do this, that you will not see Grant or I backing up on this position. We have greater conviction than the whales do. Because we have a frame of reference that's wider than them. They only think about anarchy and Mad Max and, you know, centralization, and decentralization is evil. Centralization is not evil. Why? If it is, why are we doing it right now? We are using a centralized platform. It's not one that I really like, but we're using one. And we've come together in a decentralized way. I'm not going to make either one of those bad. They both have their benefits and they both have severe weaknesses. The decentralization weakness is there's no common message. And the centralized is, hey, there's a common message and the guy at the top's evil. You know, so you get screwed. But it's not, it's very efficient for us to use a centralized platform. It's very efficient for you to go to Walmart and be able to buy everything there. Now they have maybe made it inefficient and bad and, you know, really, but the concept of centralization makes sense if you can make sure that the guy running it is centralization in an open sourced, open blockchain inventory methodology is beautiful. Full audits, that's beautiful. We just don't do the transparency part. And when we do, we lie. So that pretty much explains all of Wall Street. But you won't see Grant and I back up on this. If anything, we'll become more convicted. Because, like, why do we keep telling people there's 21 million coins? There's not 21 million coins. There's 16.
Yeah.
Why do we keep saying there's 21 million? There's not 21 million. Because if you really wanted to pump the price up, you go, hey, there's only 16 million available.
Yeah.
Right?
25% shock, basically, right there.
And look, you know, when you've been around disruption your whole life, it takes a long time. It took Visa and MasterCard 52 years to get all the credit cards in your back pocket. 52 years. Older than y'all, dude. Okay? Older than both of you cats. That's what it took them, and all the advertising and all the marketing and all the little logos at every 52 million merchants on the planet, every football game, every baseball game. Bitcoin's not anywhere close to that.
Yeah, that's
right.
True. And don't they say the adoption cycle's like 20 years for like checks, credit cards, internet, and we're only in year 17. So to your point, we are so early.
Yeah, and you're trying to bust into markets that have massive inertia. Okay, and the inertia is not just on the checking and the saving side. It's on the, oh wow, dude, I just moved to PayPal 3 years ago. People are just like, wow, man, I really ventured out there, right? They're not going to leave Bank of America, man. Right? They're not going to leave Wells Fargo and do 100% allocation into Bitcoin. But I think there's only 10 million people in Bitcoin. Max.
Really?
Well, there's only 500 million investors in the world. There's not 8 billion investors. You're not getting 8 billion Bitcoin into 8 billion people's hands. Not happening. Much less 16 million.
Yeah.
Okay. So you just reduce the supply by 5 million. How can you get to 8 billion people if there's even 8 billion people on the planet? But there's only 500 million investors. And so let's say you're at 2% best case, you're at 10 million users. We're so early, man. So early. Yeah. The deregulation of energy started in 1982. If you go ask the guys that are in the energy space today, it's 2025. That is 40 some odd years. They will tell you that the energy regulatory environment only went halfway. Like the energy players are still only enjoying half of the benefits. Because these large corporations really don't like change. And I think that's the opportunity. That means our roadmap is going to be really long. And that's cool. The whales all want it to happen like this in an instant. That is not healthy. That breaks every time. You try to build a structure like this, it breaks, man. We don't want any more of that. We want steady, you're gaining traction into hundreds of trillions of dollars. It's a big mountain.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question on that, just in terms of traction, because Gary, I've just reminded us, and I don't know if you remember this, you came on my regular podcast back in September 2024. Gosh, it feels like a long time ago now. Great conversation. And just talking about this, like how early we are. We also saw the president of the United States, Donald Trump. At that point, he was, I think just before the election when you and I talked. But he's been vocally talking about Bitcoin and, crypto. We'll leave his meme coins aside for a second. But at that time, you told me that you had, and maybe I'll let you say the number if you want to. I believe you said at that time, but I just want to make sure if you want to keep that down. You donated a lot of Bitcoin you donated a lot of money to Trump because you were super excited about the potential that he had over old, Kamala Harris, which I think we can all agree would have been a disaster. But I'm just curious, from kind of the, let's say, Bitcoin adoption or Bitcoin acceptance scorecard, how do you rate President Trump? Are you still happy with that donation that you made, just given everything that we've seen since then? How are you looking at how the president's done around Bitcoin specifically?
Well, I've never been political ever in my life. Everybody thinks I'm a Republican. I'm not a Republican. I'm also not a Democrat. I will tell you, I think both parties are completely fucking crazy. Okay. Psychopathic, crazy, criminal. Professional politicians should be thrown in jail, get a real job, do something, clean a street. But 2 or 3 years in politics should be enough. So I'm not a political person, but I do know what's right and wrong. And I know that you can't run a country differently than you run a business. And truth is, we've become very comfortable running businesses into the ground, into almost vampiric conditions, and we never claim they're dead. But I gave 12.8 Bitcoin, but I did not give it to Trump. I gave it to the Bitcoin community. And I did that strategically. I would probably have a much more serious relationship direct with Trump. And I knew that I was giving that opportunity up, but I wanted to support the Bitcoin community. I was in Nashville. I sat in that room. There was 25 people in the room. I was one of the only independent guys sitting in there. Everybody else had a position in mining or an exchange. I mean, everybody was there, man. Gemini, everybody that was anyone, all the miners were there. Trump comes in, says, hey, you guys got my attention. Y'all raised $25 million. I think you can do better than that. I'm sitting one seat from him. And he's like, I know y'all can do better than that. I'm like, you're such a gangster, dude. This is awesome. There was 25 million got you interested. And he literally looked at everyone and said, what do you guys want from me? What can I do for you to have your team support me? If you guys support me financially, I will give you what you want within reason. I mean, he wasn't stupid. And by the way, he is not the guy that everybody claims he is. Like, he is a very different person in person than he is on camera. We told him what we wanted. He went down the list. He came out and said it right there on stage. Gensler goes, I mean, there won't be a CBDC. He just, like, he's smart. He lit, bang, 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 went out, did his deal. Look, I don't really have an issue with, I don't know that I think Russia's going to probably get a bill before we do. I'm not impressed. I think all this has been talk, a bunch of jabber. We don't really have a great regulatory policy. We have infighting between, I mean, I guarantee you that Brad Garlinghouse is the world trying to suck somebody's, thing in DC. You got Coinbase sitting over there. He's probably trying to stay away from it. He's putting up a fight. I mean, I will say Coinbase has spent so much money on lobbying regulatory. In fact, if Coinbase wasn't here, I'm not sure I would be here. And it's not, and I know that could, punk off some people who hate Coinbase, but I did not see the whales of the OG era spending $100 million defending, fighting the SEC. See, the problem is they have too many skeletons in their closet anyway, but they were not fighting the SEC. Coinbase clocked the SEC, knocked them out of the ring, man. That's a big deal, okay? So having done this before, you don't do this type of lobby disruption without having people writing fucking big checks and being actively engaged in the table, in the room. And that's why I did the 12.8, because I knew I could speak to the family in a way that they would get it. Also knew that, hey, this isn't a crypto guy, dude. And this isn't a political guy either. Like, I've never given a penny. I'd given money to Vivek. And I will never give any more money. You politicians can stop calling me, okay? I hate your game. I learned it. Probably 6 of those Bitcoin, by the way, ended up in commission pockets. It's a big MLM. I mean, all the politics, dude. It's just people making fees. I get, David introduces me to Bob. Bob gets a piece. Everybody's getting a piece. So, and that was converted to fiat instantly. And I knew that was going to happen. Look, once I give something to somebody, they have the right to do whatever they want to. It's not mine anymore. I gave it to them. So do I wish I had the 12.8 Bitcoin back? I don't really think about things like that. I mean, sure, I'd like 12 Bitcoin more, but I went and bought 12 more Bitcoin. Like, that was my first job. Did I have to go replace that now? So we don't need regulation, but it would be awesome to have it. Bitcoin's going to survive with or without Donald Trump.
Yeah. And Gary, I got a question for you. When Trump came into office for the second time last year, he was touting himself and, he's going to be the crypto president, and this was going to be the crypto capital of the world. But then he immediately launches Trump coin and Melania coin. 2025 really didn't meet the expectations that a lot of people in the Bitcoin community were thinking, how things were going to go. So my question for you is, after just his first year in office, do you think Trump's been a net positive or a net negative for the crypto community and Bitcoin as a whole right now?
I think he's probably been a net positive.
Yeah. Do you think just kind of getting those conversations started? I mean, even though
I think people are making more
legislation passed,
I think people are making more about the tokens. Look, I didn't even know. I was in the inauguration and I did not know they were launching. Nobody called me. Nobody called me and said, hey, you want to do $5 million worth of this stuff? So, and that may be, hey, Gary, you're just no one. Or, I mean, has anybody ever thought maybe he didn't even know?
Yeah.
Like, we're all assuming he knows everything going on. But look, one of the reasons I really despise the whole Washington experience was not Donald Trump. It was everybody in between me and him. Dude, people turn into, like, they get close to power. They get weird. I went to Mar-a-Lago once. I'm cool not being invited back. It's a nice place, okay? But the people are all there to, people talk about, hey, bend your knee. Dude, you don't even have to tell anybody to bend their knees. They're like bringing their little knee. They don't even need knee casters. I think they got calluses on those old knees of theirs. They're used to doing this shit. I mean, I'm not saying everyone, but you know what happens around November when you're working in a big corporation and it's bonus time. Travel goes down in November. It just stops November and December, and you got the business development team sucking dick to the CEO or the COO or the CMO. And I used to tell my buddies, I'm like, wow, your travel to see clients really declines in November and December, man. I'm busting my ass. I think you guys are here getting a little brown shit on your nose over there. My boss loved it because he's like, totally, dude. People go crazy around December. They want their bonuses.
Yeah.
So, but that's that's not just one person's fault. Right. That's a whole group of people. I mean, you look at the prior administration, it wasn't one or two people. you have to, there has to be a lot of participation. The Enron event, 100 people should have gone to prison for Enron.
Yeah.
You can't pull that shit off. I know that. Look, if somebody would you make mistakes in life. So that's why I left that space. I'm like, wow, you have to lie to succeed here. And I wasn't willing to do it. I just felt like I can build private companies. I don't need to build a public company and then be forced to lie.
Right. Well, I mean, it's certainly been nice having you on the show today, Gary, because I can say for sure you have told no lies here today, all straight signal and truth. And we really appreciate you joining us to share your wisdom and your expertise and experiences. It's been an absolute blast. And we really appreciate you playing along with our fun, silly games and stuff, too, because it's been an absolute blast having you over today. So I wanted to thank you for joining us.
Pardue, thank you, Hank and Walker. Appreciate you guys, man. Y'all are awesome. Well, and Walker, I do remember it, by the way.
Good deal. Good deal. We'll have to do it again sometime.
Yep.
Yeah, let's do it again soon, guys.
Yeah, hey, make sure you guys score this. Let's see, did Grant do a better job? Did Gary? They'll all say Grant's funnier because Grant knows how to work the camera. But love to see the score. I need to know areas of improvement. Okay.
Okay.
You crushed it, and I'm sure all the online pundits are going to be saying the same thing. So thank you so much for your time today,
Thanks,
Gary.
guys.
It was a real pleasure.
Ciao.
Thank you. Cheers. All right, gang, it looks like we got one more story on the morning. Before we wrap things up, Walker, I'm going to get into it, and then you and I will jam about it real quick. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Great, because we got some breaking news this morning. Is this just in? Former U.S. President Bill Clinton is now testifying to lawmakers about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. The questioning is taking place behind closed doors, but here are the latest developments. Clinton's opening statement began by defining his relationship with Epstein as a brief acquaintance and claiming he never witnessed, during their limited interactions, any indication of what was truly going on. He highlighted that his wife, Hillary Clinton, had absolutely nothing to do with Epstein. And the former president went on to say that as someone who grew up in a home with domestic abuse, he never would have flown on Epstein's plane or had a relationship with him if he had any inkling of what he was doing, adding that he would have turned him in. Ultimately, Clinton's statement is, I saw nothing, I did nothing wrong. Walker, I want to get your reaction on these statements before we end today's show. What do you make of this? Kind of what you expected?
I mean, I didn't think that Bill Clinton was going to come out and say, yep, all the worst things you thought that I was doing with Jeffrey Epstein. In fact, I didn't. Sure, was Ghislaine Maxwell at my daughter Chelsea's wedding, even though my wife Hillary has said she has no idea who that person is. Sure, but you know, so this is par for the course. Of course, he's not going to come out and say this. I have a feeling that it's not going to be until Bill kicks the old bucket peacefully in his sleep. Nothing at all to do with Hillary, of course, putting a pillow over his face. Yeah. That is when the truth will finally come out. So to me, this is very much expected. Of course, he's going to say, yep, I mean, I didn't really know the guy. I would never endorse anything like this. I'm not even sexually promiscuous. I don't know what that Monica Lewinsky woman was talking about. Like, you know, it's like, okay, Bill, okay, sure. We'll like wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Fine. Yeah, you didn't know the guy at all. Let's see what comes out.
Yeah. I mean, it's Slick Willie, you know. I will say, though, I saw him speak at our shared university, the University of Wisconsin in college. I think he was out championing his wife, who I think Hillary was running at the time. And I got to say, nobody had to force anybody onto Bill Clinton. That is, seeing him in person, it was like he was talking to everybody individually in a crowded room of 5,000 people. That guy's got charisma coming out the yin yang. So we'll see, though. I think you're right. We probably won't find out anything until after, he's passed. But I feel like that might be par for the course for a lot of what we're seeing with these Epstein files. So that's it for me on this week. Walker, any final thoughts before we close out this Friday edition of Roxom TV News?
No, just go out there and get some sunshine, folks. Don't forget to touch grass. There's a whole lot of bad stuff that goes on in the world constantly, but make sure to celebrate the good. Spend time with your family. Get a little fresh air. Touch that grass if you live in a place where the grass isn't right now frozen. And just don't forget to enjoy the day.
Oh, those might be the wisest words we've heard all morning. Thank you so much, Walker. Always great having you on the show, and I can't wait to jam out more with you next week.
Looking forward to it.
Thanks, bud. Cheers. All right, gang, that is a wrap for another week here at Roxom TV News. We laughed, we loved, we shared stories, we talked to Walker, and we talked to Gary. It's been a real pleasure, and I want to thank all of you for joining us this morning. And if you haven't already, do the thing. Make sure to like, follow, and subscribe to Roxom TV, Roxom TV News, Hank at Roxom TV, Walker America, and of course, go check out Gary Cardone as well. It was an absolute pleasure having him on the show, and we want to thank him again for his time. And we want to thank all of you as always. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back Monday at our 10 a.m. Pacific time slot. Remember, just on Mondays. And then we return to our 8 to 10 a.m. Pacific time slot the rest of the week. So until then, stay safe, stay informed, and everybody, like Walker said, go touch some grass. I'll see you boys and girls on Monday.